We were all the even-numbered people sitting together. It was very. I got up into the center to sort of figure it out, and so one broke, one didn't. And we were talking in the car, Janie and I, on the way here, because she's gone into Dunkin' Donuts, and I don't know. She'd gone into Dunkin' Donuts, and there was a family in front of her in line. And two were asleep and two were awake. The father and the daughter were like groggy. And the mother and the son were awake. And the mother's sort of trying to place the order at Dunkin' Donuts, and she asked her husband, "Do you want sausage on your biscuit?" And she says finally, she takes the daughter who's leaning against her and says, "You two just go outside and we'll take care of the order, right, Jane?" And I was thinking how we divide up and how it is that we have different energies and different rhythms in our lives. And just as, those are equal candles. Why did one break and the other one didn't? I have no idea. Was there something structurally different in each of the... One was tipped into the flame. Good observation.
It was God talking to them.
Well, we'll use it as an illustration anyway. And that's what Jesus was doing in the gospel today, is that he was taking stuff that everybody was sort of familiar with from nature, and he's sitting by the sea, and he's sort of weaving it into his communication. And so it sort of begs for me, doing what I do, but also for all of us to sort of wonder, what is it that we observe in our lives that can be sort of an illustration? How is it that God's speaking to us through stuff that just happens, or that seemingly just happens? How is it that we can sort of tune in and wonder, what is it that God means us to understand as we just go through our life? Like Jane had an experience, I don't know if it was a God moment, but an experience of just sort of with these people in the Dunkin' Donuts line. She had this really fun communication with the mother, and they were sort of figuring out the differences in terms of how the family was sort of energized. And it got us talking about that and how, the husband in that family, as it turns out, has to get 2 hours ahead in order to be awake for work. It takes him 2 hours to get out of the fog. And some of us just sort of wake up. Who here is sort of a wake up, ready to go person? And who wakes up in a fog? See? And who was born in an odd-numbered month? And then who was born in an even-numbered month? I mean, we're all different. All the energies and the particularities sort of flow out of essential, some of these sort of basic differences, and we just sort of discover as we go along how we function best. And Paul addresses that in his letter to the Romans. He says we all have sort of flesh to deal with, ways in which our bodies function, and they're different. And the functioning of our bodies and what we do in terms of accommodating that is one level of operation, one level of functioning. And that's fine. He calls it sin, and the body of sin. But it's just where we are. We have to learn how to live a mortal life. But then there's this other quality which we keep coming in touch with in the Eucharist and in baptism and in moments where we just sort of feel something coming to our consciousness or to our heart or even in our belly sometimes, and you go, oh. And it can be wordless or it could be a thought, and it's some sort of sense that there's a little bit of a breakthrough. It isn't the ordinary. It isn't the accustomed. It isn't the thing you planned. It isn't the thing that was sort of scripted. It isn't what you maybe intended. And something just happens and it gets your attention. And you go, oh, is this what Jesus was talking about? Is this something of what we hear about in the Eucharist? Is this something more, something of a quality that just is beyond or before, that's basic? Maybe something really simple and yet you feel grounded in a certain way, or you may feel exalted in a certain way. And it's those moments that, however we divide up in terms of our birth or our energies, or whether we're, however we are sort of structured, there are moments for all of us when it just transcends or deepens our experience in a way that we leave the usual and the customary, or we find it infused with something that makes it more. Janie and I are thinking about this particularly as we go off to camp today for a week with the little kids, and the theme is ecology and the sacred, and it's really heightened my awareness of how often Jesus uses nature for the setting of his teaching and for illustrations in his teaching. It's like there's something about getting back to the earth, not that he was a nature worshiper or anything, or calls us to be, but there's something about getting back to the earth or reflecting on the beauty of the earth or the nature of creation, thinking about it, treasuring it in our hearts, feeling it under our feet, sort of breathing into the moment on the earth, that is important if we're going to be in touch again with the God who created us. It's not incidental that Jesus took people into the land in order to teach them, took them out of their commerce, out of their households, out of all of their stuff, and taught them there. He got in a boat and taught the people. He was on a seashore. He was on a mountain. He was in a plain. He's not exclusively, of course you can find that he taught in the synagogue, and you can find that he was in the city streets. But often, very often, Jesus was off in the wilderness to learn for himself, to pray, and he was teaching people in nature. And he was using nature as illustrations. We heard them today in terms of the sower going out to sow and the nature of how things grow. But you think about the lilies of the field and the birds of the air being used as illustrations of how we can have a certain, not carelessness, but a freedom that comes from recognizing that God is at work in providing for all of our needs. That we have our part, but that God's going to meet us. And that quality of being met is what I think Paul was asking the Romans to attend to, because sometimes we get caught in thinking it's all about what we do, that it's all about what we accomplish. And that's the body of sin, when we think we're a world unto ourselves, and it all has to do with what we can do and how we can take on a life. And what we lose sight of is that God's at work in your life and in mine and among us to instill life, to bring life forward. And it's happening every moment in ways that we cannot control. Our life is being sustained by unseen forces that trace back to God. Every function in your body and in mine is sustained miraculously, if you think about it, in terms of what can go wrong, sustained in going right so much of the time. And of course things go wrong in our bodies, but if you think about it over the course of your life, how much has functioned well, and how is it that that happens? As much as you can explain it physiologically, there's something miraculous at the base of it. The fact that your heart beats and my heart beats. So much of what happens, that there's ever a normal birth. I mean, I know there are births that aren't, but there's so much that is brought forward in life that shows the unseen and yet effective hand of God. And if we're in the body of our flesh only, we lose track of that. We're only focusing on how much goes wrong. We get caught in how much we have to do, how much we have to manage, how it's all upon us. And it's that Paul's addressing to the Romans. He said that's the body of sin. But thanks be to God that Jesus came and lived a mortal life, suffered in a mortal life, and yet never lost track of God. Found his way to be rooted and grounded in the sacred, even while living a mortal life. Now, none of us are going to be Jesus in terms of the perfection of that life, in how well he did that. But he's the pioneer who went ahead. He's the one who's shown us the way. And one of the ways that we're looking at this morning, and Jane and I are going to focus on this coming week, is that one of the ways that he led people into nature. He led them into thinking about how nature functions and how we are tied into nature and how we depend upon nature and how we are called to care for nature and that we're stewards in partnership with nature and how much we can learn and discover and enjoy about being God's people through nature. This is a wonderful day to be talking about this. Did you feel the air as you came to church today? Did you sense the quality in the air? How deeply could you go? Could you stop and just breathe it? Could you let your body relax into the earth and just feel the way your body is supported by the earth? Can you feel the warmth of the sun? Can you smell what's caught in a breeze? Can you hear a bird song? Can you allow that to just touch your soul? It's not incidental to what it means to be a Christian to have a heart that's grateful in response to what comes to us unbidden, uncontrolled, beyond us. That is an essential quality in terms of being alive to God's life. To be able to relax into it and enjoy it and find yourself having a grateful heart. And there's so much that would keep us from doing that, would keep me from doing it, that I'm rushing from one thing to another. Or I've got so much to do in my yard that I'm not able to sit and just be with the yard. I don't know if any of you ever have that, but I see this and this and this and this. And it's been an intentional thing on my part to stop and to sit and to just take in what is around me and to just let it be. And I find such enjoyment and relaxation in that, and I believe it is a sacred thing. It's coming to ground, that God means us to be in touch with what it means to be human and mortal, not in a frenzied way, but in a relaxed way, which is the benefit of Jesus having come and lived among us. That we can relax as mortal creatures. We don't have to establish ourselves or justify ourselves or prove ourselves. Essentially, we don't have to. Jesus has gone before and has assured us that we're loved and that we are cared for just as we are. And one of the ways that you and I can experience that, I mean in many ways, but one of the ways that is touched on today, even in the Isaiah reading, the rain coming and watering the earth. There are lessons in nature. There's lessons in terms of allowing yourself to immerse in nature that will helps me to be reminded of the source of our life. You can know in a relaxed or relaxing way in nature, you can remember, you can reclaim where it is from where you come. It's tilling the good ground. It allows the seed to find its root because something opens in you and in me when we're in touch with the earth. And we remember God as the creator of all that is good. As the one who created life and said it's good. So next week, I'll let you know what I discovered through children in terms of our connection to the land and to nature. How we remembered together what it is to find the sacred in the world that's in the created world. Maybe your grandson will have an insight. So as you leave today, consider just taking a moment in the rest of your day to stop